Good evening. Welcome to Simpson at 8. We are continuing with the interview and debate that will be held here on MyTV ahead of the 2018 general elections. We are pleased to have with us this evening the Attorney General and General Secretary of the Fiji First Party, Mr. Aiyaz Sayed-Khaiyum. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Question of these elections, why should Fiji First be given another 4 years?
Well, we believe that Fiji First has actually delivered on its promises. Fiji First has actually provided an economic and a political and a social environment where people are feeling a lot more confident. There's a lot more business confidence, more jobs have been created. Last year we created 20,000 jobs. The year before that created another 20,000 jobs. And to have stability in economic growth and what we call deep economic wealth, you need continuity in government, you need continuity in policies. That's what gives people, Fijians and non-Fijians, actually confidence to be able to invest in the country, to be able to create new jobs, to be able not to want to migrate and to stay in Fiji. And this is why we believe that that momentum needs to continue, because if you look at all countries in the world, you've always had long periods of stability where then in that period they've gained deep economic wealth.
Right, so you've come out and said that no country in the world has ever progressed if they kept chopping and changing governments, and Fiji should not cut the path first. Fiji first. Please explain what you meant by that.
If you look at countries like USA, I'm talking about historically, if you look at countries like USA, if you look at countries like, for example, Australia, they've had long periods of growth, quite a number of decades ago, when they actually gained a lot of economic wealth, gained a lot of economic stability, people again became confident, they became industrialized, commercialized, the individual dreams were realized, for example, owning their own home, motor vehicles, etc. That's what we need. So they have now obviously in a very good platform. What we're saying, we need to build a platform. Fiji First, under the leadership of Vorenga Bainimarama, has been actually offering the leadership and those policies and the practical implementation of that. That's now on keel. Let's not get rid of it.
Because
Let's continue
we see governments like Australia, New Zealand, and the UK, they quite chop and change their governments quite regularly, yet they keep on progressing.
Yeah, but I'm talking about historically. They've had long periods of growth where they had deep economic wealth that's been built into it. For example, Australia, they had 20 years of Menzies-led government after World War II. We've never had that sort of a period of governance. We've never had that period where we have deep economic empowerment of people. We need to do that, and that is actually happening. For example, you have 9 years led of economic growth, straight 9 years led of economic growth. We've never had that in Fiji. Projected to grow for another 3 years, projections are normally for 3 years. So you'll have 12, 15 years of growth, continuous growth. Now, that is very critical because it creates jobs, it creates opportunities.
Because the chopping and changing governments, one would say, that's a fundamental part of democracy. That if people choose to, look, we want fresh leadership, we want change, we don't think the Fiji First government is doing well. Why do you think they should be thinking of just keeping the momentum going with Fiji First?
Because we have delivered. We've delivered on our promises. We've actually delivered economically, socially, politically. We provide the level of stability, the level of security in Fiji. Apart from the political aspects of it, also economically we provided that momentum and we had that growth led. So, of course, people have the opportunity to change government. That is their right. That is the right of all political parties to go and campaign. Our, of course, slogan, our mantra is to say, look, we provide the stability. Stick with Fiji First. We'll continue to provide you with the development. You make the choice, but we believe it would be silly to make a choice that is alternative to Fiji First, because at this point in time, in our history, we need to continue with that momentum.
Right. You've also said recently that voting against Fiji First is like putting a dagger to your neck.
Yes.
Some people are saying that AG is being over dramatic here, saying like it's like you're committing suicide. Why did you make those statements?
Because firstly, it's being put out of context, but nonetheless, I mean, there's a saying that if you do something that's going to be detrimental to you, you'll be hitting the spade or the hoe on your foot.
Right.
There's a saying on that, Now, what I'm saying is worse than that. You'll put a dagger to your neck, because look at the alternative of Fiji First. Look at Sodelpa. Look at NFP. They're not going to offer you stability. You have Rambuka coming along and saying he wants to bring back the 1997 Constitution. The 1997 Constitution...
Why do you say they cannot offer us stability?
Well, let me finish my sentence. The 1997 Constitution had quota system on ethnicity, had us divided along ethnic lines. You had the Momi land transferred, permanently alienated from Itauke land to freehold land. You had all sorts of shenanigans going on based on ethnicity. You had also now NFP is doing obviously some side deals with Sodelpa. It's an open secret, as much as Biman would want to sort of denounce it publicly. Everybody knows that it's happening. They are going along with many of these things. You cannot have our young people being deprived of the rights currently that we are offering. You cannot run a modern nation state based on common and equal citizenry. You have equal participation of people in the public space. Economically, it will be disastrous. You have one of the candidates now coming around saying 1987 was a good thing. You're saying 2000 was a good thing. This is Sodelpa camp. NFP is keeping quiet about that. NFP is one of the leaders knows economically that we are doing well, but they remain silent. He's got one of his candidates have been charged for racial religious vilification. Keeps quiet. He said he's innocent till proven guilty, but his other candidates who have been accused of sexual assault, he quickly gets him to resign. This is, this is the kind of double standards that you have. So because of these double standards, if the voter is actually going to vote for these people, you are actually putting a neck to your head, a neck to your, dagger to your neck. Because you are actually then going to strangle the economic growth that we have.
But we've had changes in the past. Change of governments, as I said again, is a normal part of a democratic process. Doesn't mean the country will fall apart.
Of course, this time it will fall apart because of the fact that these people do not offer you a very good alternative. They're based on ethnicity. We have a particular momentum. We have people coming and investing in Fiji. We have people actually coming in who have returned, who left Fiji, wanting to come and invest in Fiji. Our development partners, World Bank, for example, has opened an office. All these wonderful things are happening. You've got Harry and Meghan Merkel coming to Fiji. Now, all of these things are happening because we have a particular momentum. We have a Prime Minister becoming the President of COP23. You listen to them in Parliament. What are the alternatives? He said, oh, don't go away overseas. Look after climate change in Fiji. Anybody who understands climate change knows that it does not recognize borders. So you see, this is the kind of leadership you'll have. People who don't actually have a basic understanding of economics, financial capacity, commercial acumen. It does not exist at all.
Okay, so you're saying...
sorry,
keep the momentum going.
Let me also forget. They do not necessarily believe in common and equal citizenry.
Right, we'll get to that. We will get to that. Now, the counter-argument, some would say, you're saying, give us the momentum, let us keep going. The counter-argument is sometimes they'll say, oh, once you give AG and Prime Minister Bainimarama another 4 years, they'll get complacent, they start to feel too powerful, they will not consult, they'll become less responsive to the needs of the people. What do you say to the criticism?
These are all conjectures. No, these are all conjectures.
Well, the same way you said about that the country will fall apart if you give it to them.
Let me finish. These are conjectures, but look at the track record of the government under the leadership of Bainimarama. What has happened? More people connected to water, roads, electricity than ever before. We have free education, tertiary education loan scheme. You have rural pregnant women being given food vouchers. You have people now given disability allowances. You have more investment in Fiji than ever. Private sector investment as a percent of GDP. So obviously we're not complacent. We're engaging in civil service reform. We are continuously looking at new ideas, new ways of improving the country because we are driven not by pure political ambition. We are driven by actually adherence and making sure that our country as a nation state does well. We empower people. That's our track record. Just because you come along and say, oh, they might become complacent and let's vote for the other jokers, when their policy alternatives are nothing.
All right, political parties are saying things about each other, as you know. Now, one of the things that was raised when you started from 2014, and it's been raised for a long time, it's not new to you, you've been saying it over and over, but I thought I'd raise it again, is that you and the PM make most or all of the decisions in the country or for Fiji First government, and the country is essentially being run by two people, a government of two.
You see, again, Stanley, these people who are making these comments, it's all very personalized. If you look in any country, so, you know, you have the Donald Trump, he's the president. He makes decisions. He's the president of USA. Morrison is the Prime Minister of Australia. He makes decisions. Ardern is the Prime Minister of New Zealand. She's the leader. She makes the decisions. So what's wrong with Bainimarama making the decisions? I think
the criticism here is how you come to the decisions, because it's just the two of you. It's not a consultative.
But who's saying this?
The opposition.
But who's saying this?
Okay, it's not just from the opposition actually. It's coming from people who were part of Fiji First.
Yes.
Like Alfred Timbulivo.
Yes.
He was just on the front page recently. He says, there was no freedom. This is his words.
Yes.
There is no fairness and transparency because only two guys, this is his words, are leading this government. There is no democracy. So in essence, they're saying you're not broadly representative. And this is from a former Fiji First MP.
Yeah, but we were elected. What does he mean about democracy? This is the man who applied for a ticket and was rejected. I can tell you many personal issues about him, about his performance as a member of parliament, but I'm not going to get into these personal issues.
Right.
You are doing that.
Well,
no, hang on, let me finish. You are doing that.
Well, they are doing that.
No, but you are now becoming their sort of messenger. My point of the matter is this. You need to look at the track record of the government. We are democratically elected. Leaders of a party will lead the party. They will ultimately make the decision. We have decisions that are made by the cabinet. Cabinet makes concession decisions, right? Based on consensus. That's how all governments have functioned. Many people can argue and say Ratu Mara was the only guy who led the whole government. But he had a parliamentary system. Nobody said that about him. We can say the same thing about Garase. What level of democracy was there? What level of democracy was there under SVT? So, I mean, look.
It is personal. These are,
you know, but this is a distraction.
Right, it is. Now, let me read another one.
And you are getting swept away.
Well, let me read another one, because this comes from Pio Tukundundo, who was very, very close to the government. And this is, he did not like the way, after he left, he said he did not like the way you handled the dissenting vote of Dr. Neil Sharma. I think he voted against the matter in Parliament. Right. These were his words. It's harsh words. It's harsh words. There is a paranoid element in the Fiji First Party that treats any sign of dissension as a threat that must be immediately suppressed. And he compared you to Stalin in the Soviet Union. But in Aiyaz Sayed-Khaiyum's words, Dr. Sharma had to be made an example. He put it in quotation marks. He had to be forced out of Parliament to warn other MPs not to do the same. I'd just like you to respond to that, because people are using this.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, again, I don't think many people are using this. It's people like you who give it currency.
Well, you're hearing the campaigns, AG, you know that people are using
but you see, this is the other interesting thing. Let me just tell you this. You see, all our political party meetings are actually open. Anybody can attend. NFP and these people don't tell you, in particular NFP. So they can go and get a small group of people and spin whatever they like to them. You can come. Tomorrow we've got a meeting tonight we actually got a meeting in Nosole. Please come to that.
No, we've got a few rallies coming up, I understand.
Yeah, and they're all open. But not just the rallies, we have meetings every day. We don't spin. NFP does a lot of spinning. So he goes and personalizes you. Look, Pio is actually a friend of mine. Okay, I consider him a friend of mine. He was in fact very close to me. We worked together. He was Permanent Secretary for Justice. He also worked in PM's office. As I said in another show the other day, he was the only person apart from PM and the DPP, now the DPP, and Pio that came to my wedding when we had the private ceremony.
I came to that wedding too. It was a wonderful wedding.
At the private ceremony. I'm talking about the private ceremony that was held at my brother's house. Now, he came to that. We was very close to him.
So that's all the more reason why his words shouldn't be taken lightly.
Let me finish. I've never personally admonished him. I've never called him a Lumuri. I can call him that, but I've never called him that. I can go and tell you that when he actually resigned, he told the PM and I saying that he's leaving because of health reasons, and his family had to leave him. As you know, there's a bit sort of skewed on his right-hand side. He had some form of cancer, etc. Now, whatever, or tumor, whatever the case may be, we actually believed it. I actually fundamentally believed him. I've never made any kind of statement against him. Now, he is a man who stood up, listened to his speech when he gave his opening speech in Parliament. You know, everybody gives a maiden speech in Parliament. Listen to his maiden speech. Look at the way he actually talks about the PM. Look at the way he talks about Fiji First and the values and the principles. Now, suddenly this person...
And a few months later, he changed. Because he made these comments
a few months later. You need to ask him about that. Now, you also need to look at various other political parties. Look at Sodelpa. They are in some kind of hybrid, a mix. They do not know who's leader, who's the president, who's the deputy leader.
Well, their motto is leadership that listens. I mean, they're making a play for this.
But obviously they're in shambles because nobody knows who's going to be the leader. You've got Rotemumu Kepa holding her own rally today or tomorrow, saying about the Team Kepa. It's not Team Sodelpa, it's Team Kepa. So you see, the problem there is there's no decisive leadership. The problem there is no leadership that has a particular vision and a goal.
Right.
We're not here to do kumbaya. We're actually here to provide leadership to the country. As I said to you, all political parties need to provide a particular direction for the country and people to follow.
So what you're doing is basically leadership. These
are actually all sideshows. Get Pio to talk about the policies.
Okay.
Get Pio to talk about the track record of Fiji First, about the delivery of services, about people in Monasawa getting connected to electricity even though they provided the land for electricity.
I think you've made your point. Yes. I think you've made your point. Now, just the other thing about the portfolios, you've heard this, that you and only one or two other ministers have quite a bit of, have quite a number of portfolios. And people are saying Fiji First has 32 MPs in Parliament. Why not share some of those ministerial portfolios? Why do you, a few of you have so much portfolios in cabinet?
Well, I don't think that they're actually saying about the others. They basically are targeting you.
Yes.
So let's speak the truth. Come on.
Let's speak the truth. I thought I've attacked you personally.
No, that's okay. Look, I can take it. But the fact of the matter is, let's take it as it is being said. So nobody talks about Aiyaz Sayed-Khaiyum having about 4 or 5 different portfolios, nor do they talk about the fact that those portfolios are actually hugely demanding in terms of time, in terms of people contact, in terms of the service delivery face-to-face with members of the public. Nobody talks about Praveen Bala having 5 or 6 ministerial portfolios, again, huge public contact ministries, large budgets, right? If you look at the ministries that I have had, the substantive ones, economy, public enterprise, civil service and communications, they're actually quite small ministries, communications.
Right.
You look at public service, you look at civil service.
You now
civil
got
service,
education to that as well.
Yeah, that's obviously just an adjunct to before in the lead up to elections. Obviously, I'm not going to run with education after elections. It was because we had a very short period of time and because Ministry of Education had a number of issues pertaining to civil service reforms. And as you know, civil service reforms, I'm responsible for civil service reforms. So it needed that input into there because it's the largest ministry in respect of personnel. Over 10,000 teachers. So that's why I'm there to try and sort out those issues.
Okay.
But that's an adjunct. For the other 4 ministries, very little people contact, very small budgets, and also in respect of day-to-day running, I don't have much to do with it at all. Because,
so they don't need a minister?
Because
you're stating that they don't need a minister?
What I'm saying, you need a minister to provide strategic direction. I mean, every aspect of government needs a minister responsible for it. So, for example, elections. Let's talk about elections. Whilst I'm the minister responsible,
we have 1 minute left. So
whilst I'm the minister responsible for elections, I don't run the elections office. It's to do with, allocation of funding, etc. That's what it's about. So similarly with public enterprise, I don't run AFL or run all the other, government-owned enterprises. They have their own board, they have their own CEOs, they have their own personnel. It's more to do with governance and overall oversight.
So just quickly, your Fiji First, if I'm correct, has 32 MPs in Parliament?
Yes.
32.
Well, was.
Well, yeah. Well, and what's the role that the other bank benches are saying? Because
people forget.
The opposition is saying they've just become seat warmers for the last 4 years.
That's absolute nonsense. You see, people forget in the parliamentary system, the most powerful group of people actually are people who sit in committees. They review all the public documents that are actually submitted to Parliament. They're quasi-judicial bodies. They actually can call for public submissions.
So these people have been in there?
They can actually summon, of course they're all chairpersons. They're actually a lot more powerful. In fact, we depend on them to do the right thing and to be able to further particular agendas.
Doing a lot of the work in the background, so
Absolutely, not background, but also the front ground. But the problem is the media and you guys are obsessed by what these statements that these people are making as opposed to looking at the actual structures in Parliament.
We are with the Fiji First General Secretary, Aiyaz Sayed-Khaiyum. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back. You're watching Simpson at 8. We're with the Fiji First General Secretary, Mr. Aiyaz Sayed-Khaiyum. Now, one of the things that has come up in this election, or it's been for all the elections, is the issue of racial politics or race-based politics. How have you seen this play out? Because you've accused some of these political parties.
I think, Stanley, you will see yourself in social media and also in some of the political party meetings, if you attend those meetings. They are really the engagement in respect of racial and religious vilification has actually heightened quite a lot. And essentially, I think the reason why this has happened is because the opposition parties in particular, it is them and their supporters are becoming quite desperate because they know this is the last throw of the dice for them. And they will throw everything to try and win votes, to try and get, form government, etc. And because we have a very good track record economically, they know people are connected. People can see physically the changes that are taking place, free education, etc., everything else. Now, so they don't have necessarily a comeback, nor do they have the gumption to actually say, look, this is good, this has happened. If you see, none of them actually say that. And then to say, look, we can do this better, or whatever, etc. it is. They've engaged in this religious and racial vilification. They've got this sort of, Chinese are taking over, the Muslims are taking over. All of this, the PM has become a Muslim.
So last throw of the dice.
We won't be able to throw, Garcia said in a video before 2014, you won't be able to pray to Jesus Christ if you vote for Benny Marama in this constitution. Everybody's praying to Jesus Christ. This TV station is run by a church group. They've got major interest in it. So, but the fact of the matter is, it's all nonsense, but you'll see that happening quite a lot.
Right.
And I think this is just desperation.
Well, the word desperation was used by Biman, saying it's actually that it's you and the PM who are bringing this up. He says you're the one that's stoking this. while the other parties are talking about issues. I'm just talking about both sides, what both sides are saying. Like he said, you were going around saying common name for all Fijians, yet he says the Prime Minister stands up in Korovoto and says Biman is afraid of the Itoke. And that Bainimarama has done more for Indo-Fijians than anyone else.
Biman Prasad, we were told at some meeting in Nassori, stood up and said, I'm the only Hindu leader.
Right, okay.
Right? No, let me finish.
Let me finish my question. And for Indo-Fijians sitting on the fence, they should vote for Fiji first because you look after that interest.
Yeah.
Now, he is putting that back on you. Why is not everyone Fijians when it comes to this?
No, let me finish this. The reality is that Biman Prasad is actually impotent. He's quite impotent when it comes to racial and religious issues.
Well, what do you mean by impotent?
Impotent. He's very soft.
Because that's quite...
No, he is impotent. Obviously, I don't necessarily mean physically because I cannot assess that. But the fact of the matter, impotent, I'm using the English language.
Right.
Obviously, it does not mean...
so he's not strong.
Literally, it means figuratively. He is impotent when it comes to these matters. Now, the reality is this, that in Parliament, you've had Nico Nawaikula and Sodelpa and various other people making all sorts of racial-based comments, all sorts of threats. Some of them quite directly, some of them quite subtly. Biman Prasad, Pramod Chand, Prem Singh have not uttered a word. When there were, for example, people making all sorts of comments. For example, Karavaki at one point in time indicated in Parliament that only men who are circumcised are somehow the other closer to God. Now, I'm circumcised. There are other members in Parliament who are not. But as a circumcised person does not give me the ability to criticize people who are not circumcised.
Quite vivid examples.
No, I have to, because you have to tackle this. You raised it, let me address it. At the same time, nor does it give anybody the ability who is not circumcised to criticize people who are circumcised. I remember when Karavaki said that, I pointed to Biman and said, hey, say something. Did not.
He did not.
When Tiko Das stood up in Parliament and read out Muslim names in the budget saying all Muslims are taking over, he stood up and actually defended his right to say that. Now, what I'm saying is that because we have a country that has had a history of racial and religious politics, Rambuka justified the two coups in 1987 predicated on the supposed Indian takeover. George Spade actually was in 2000 said, these Indians smell different, eat different, think different.
Yeah.
Now, we need to get rid of this kind of politics. And the PM is actually saying that he is a person who could not stand up for those kind of issues about equality and playing politics. I remember in the 2014, I have a lot of things to say. You've raised a lot of issues.
Yeah.
Let me finish it.
Okay.
In 2014, when I was in one of the radio shows that Biman was on, I think it was Aina, he was asked, do you think everybody should be called a Fijian? He asked and armed, etc. He could not handle that. He was not able to give a straight answer. In a modern nation state, everybody needs to be called a Fijian. Let me make two other points, because you're trying to hurry me along. You put all these accusations. Let me answer it. Now,
I just have plenty of things that he said back in response.
Yeah, but let me say this. When Romano Tikotukoda was accused of rape or sexual assault, he was withdrawn as a provisional candidate. When Dr. Yunus has been charged, actually, for sexual assault, rape, whatever the case may be, immediately I understand the NFP quickly went and got his resignation. One of his candidates in Ba has recently been charged for religious racial vilification, making those kind of comments. Biman Prasad came out publicly and said he is innocent till proven guilty. When we raised the issue about Pramod Chand making religious comments, etc., they said, oh, we'll investigate. Even the lawyers came out, it was in the Fiji Sun, saying, we've got an investigation team, we'll come out and give a report. Where's the investigation? Where's the report? So he's impotent in those issues because he knows his supporters actually use that. He's aligned himself with VHP, which, as you know, is a radical group from India, extreme Hinduism. Hindus in this country...
Saying the
VHP. Vishwa Hindu Parishad Party.
All right.
Now, Hindus in this country have lived peacefully, everybody mingles around, etc. These are a radical group. These are the guys who recently went and killed nuns, and burnt churches, etc. Now, that kind of, his alignment with that group over here demonstrates that these people are actually quite desperate. They want to use this religious and racial vilification to actually try and break up the vote. Try and break up the vote. So you see, the reality is this. The Honourable Prime Minister said this. About the reason why I raised this is because he's a member of Parliament with no proven track record in saying, look, I stand up and I support everybody.
So the Prime Minister was responding to him?
The Prime Minister, well, not just responding to him, he's actually saying, this is the track record.
Okay.
These people will compromise your rights. He was saying to the Indo-Fijians, he'll compromise your rights in the hope of driving a black car with red lights. That's all he wants.
Let me get what he said, because I did ask him about NFP MPs allegedly talking about Hindus not to vote for Muslims. And he said this. Who are the people talking about this? It is essentially Mr. Bainimarama and Mr. Aiyaz Sayed-Khaiyum and the Fiji First candidates. I have traveled around the country and no one has raised the issue of Hindu, Muslim, Sikh. It is these people. It's Mr. Sayed-Khaiyum. He goes everywhere and he deliberately talks about this. These are the people that's spreading it because they're desperate of losing the Indo-Fijian vote. The country is in like a murky area. It's the first people accusing each other of racial politics. So who should they believe?
Stanley, I think you would be blind as a bat to see that we are not the ones doing it. Go to social media. Look at the NFP supporters. Look at the NFP candidates. Or would this guy, Firoz Mohammed. Look at the stuff he's saying. He's got photographs of me because I went to a Hindu temple. You know,
let me just say that I've seen supporters from both sides saying some...
No, but I'm talking about the candidates.
The candidates, right? Okay,
Let's talk about
yes.
candidates.
Yeah.
None of our candidates have done that.
Right.
Supporters, I don't know which supporter you're talking
Yeah.
about, but the fact of the matter is that they are the people who've engaged in, saying that I've become a Hindu. Then you had Lenora Geringere Tambua. On one of the, recently you may remember that there was some mistranslation by somebody at Tourism Fiji, about Valeni Lotu. And then there's a whole thing of things, these people should be got rid of. And in fact, those people eventually were fired because they had to carry out an investigation. Now, somebody made a comment saying, if it was anything to do with Islam, people would have been fired by now. And she made a comment saying, true. I showed all this to Biman in Parliament, after Parliament. Not a single thing has been done.
Stood up
And we have actually had people who go to the meetings, and they do say that. You see, NFP has two faces. One is the public face saying, no, 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 no. And at the back, this is what's happening. And that's precisely, and people come and tell us about this. That's what they're doing. If you listen to the comments the PM has made that I made, it's out in the open.
To tell you things because they also question that about people, the one that someone came and told you about the cow in the field.
Yes.
And they said, well, how do you know that's true? Just because someone told you that.
I have not just had the cow in the field story. I've had many other stories.
Yeah,
in fact,
but how do you know it's true?
Because this person is very genuine. He's not a party member. He's not a supporter per se. He was there, somebody in the meeting. He was an elderly man. He's got no stake in it. And he said to me, look, he came out of the blue. He said, what you said was really true. He said, because that's what they said to me. So I've taken it on the face value, but he's got no stake in it, right? He's got not somebody who's some dubious character. I've had people who supported us are saying, NFP is now saying, if you vote for us, you can carry any load that you want on your trucks. I mean, this is the kind of shenanigans. And these people actually donated us money last time. They're not doing it this time because NFP has made them those kind of promises. I had somebody also saying the other day about how Faisal Koya, etc., all these people made all sorts of religious comments. See, the fact of the matter is they are doing it, they know it. We have actually no game in it. If you look at our track record, if you look at the past 4 years as Fiji First government, we've never engaged in this sort of, that kind of debate. We've never brought in religion or ethnicity.
What they're saying is that you have because you keep telling these people that if these people come back...
This is the first Prime Minister that has said everybody is a Fijian.
Right. This
is the first Prime Minister who's at such a huge level of permeation through every single community in Fiji. Right?
This and you're saying if these people come back, they will lose that, right?
What we are saying is that these people are at the moment going to throw everything, even the kitchen sink they'll throw, to be able to win your votes. And they're going and appealing to people based on ethnicity, based on religion. We've heard people doing North Indian, South Indian. I was told in Savusavu, and I've said this and I'll continue to say this, people in Savusavu, Lambasa, some NFP people told them, so it shouldn't be called the FF party or Fiji First party, it should be called the MM party, Madrasi Musalman party. One place they said it should be called Madrasi Gujarati Musliman Party because we appointed some Gujaratis to boards. Charanjit Singh, it's in social media. He said the other day that the reason why we don't $5 minimum wage is because these Gujaratis are telling us not to do it. Gujarati business. So he's brought in the racial vilification, racial engagement.
We will put to rest now the ethnicity topic. Let's go to the issues that will. Let's talk about Fiji First and your manifesto. When is it coming out? What's new policy? You say soon, but why so late? It's just a few weeks left. Why so few weeks left for the elections?
We did the same thing last time.
Because we're hammering NFP on their $5 minimum wage. I mean, we should be able to have a look at your policies.
No, but you know our policies. Our budget is the announcement of our policy.
So you're not putting any new policies in the manifesto? Nothing's coming.
The point is this. I've said this before, that we are going to build upon what we already have. This is a government driven by a leader. We're constantly looking at new things. Like, for example, in our manifesto, last time, we did not say we will give $1,000 to babies that are born to mothers that earn less than $30,000 a year. But we've done it. Now, what we are doing is we're building upon the foundation driven by the fundamental principles of the party that is empowering everyday Fijians. We're constantly looking at new things. Our manifesto is not going to suddenly pull out something saying all people from Sabu Sabu should be, locked up in a cage, or all people from Sabu Sabu should be given, $10,000 each. No. I mean, obviously that's out of the ordinary, and it's not going to happen, in particular if you do with Sabu Sabu. But the fact of the matter is that we are going to build upon what we already have.
So soon in the next week?
Well, it has to come out very soon because the elections are on the 14th of November.
All right. Stay tuned for that. You're watching Simpson at 8. Welcome back. Simpson at 8 with Fiji First General Secretary Mr. Aiyaz Sayed-Khaiyum. Now, unprecedented 9 years of economic growth. Now, I had the NFP leader who's been in our conversations quite a bit here for last week, and he said, it's good, not good enough. He's saying the economy is underperforming and it should be growing at a much higher rate. So this is his exact words. They claim to have enjoyed unprecedented growth in the country. In fact, if you look at the average growth rate the last 12 years, it's barely 2%. Very modest compared to other countries who enjoy 4%. We should be doing better. Basically saying it's not performing.
See, this is the level of intellectual dishonesty we have to deal with, right? So let's take the time period. If you want to take the time period from 2007, what he did not tell you is that we had a global financial crisis. Every country went into a regression. There's depression in many countries. There's recession in many countries. He did not tell you about that. So, I can average out many figures. And if you want to take the average figures from 2014 to now, you see the growth rate is much higher. If you spread it over a longer period of time, in which you had huge economic downturns globally, of course the figures will come out low. That's the level of intellectual dishonesty. This man is a professor of economics. He needs to be intellectually honest in the same way.
So he should have tied it to the global...
He should actually say, Mick and Thomas and all these things were there. In the same way, for example, if you look at from 2014, we have actually in the 9 years of growth, even if you take the 9 years of growth working backwards, we've had Winston. Winston cost us $1.2, billion worth of loss to our GDP. Notwithstanding that, despite that, we still grew, and there was a modest sum in that particular year. It was about 0.4, 0.7.
Well, we broke even, so to speak.
We didn't break even, we actually grew. But the fact of the matter is, despite all those issues and problems and sort of what we call interceptions within the economic momentum that we had, we still grew for 9 years. They don't tell you that. So if you look at any country in the world, if you have recessions, if you look at Australia, various other countries, they have actually had, Australia is very modest growth. Now, I can go and say, look at Chinese growth, look at Indian growth, or various other countries. They're large economies, large fundamental basis to the economies. If I want to start comparing them, obviously, they're much bigger and they'll have much bigger growth. The reality in Fiji is this, let me finish this, is that we've never grew 9 years straight, right? Of course, everybody will say, every single country, every single government in the world, every single opposition in the world will say, we can grow much better in any country. Of course we can. But the reality is this has never happened before. We projected to grow for another 3 years.
Laid, so to speak.
The foundation needs to be, a lot more cement needs to be poured into the foundation.
Right. Can I ask, continue to grow. What is driving this economic growth? What policies are you putting in place that's driving this economic growth in particular? Because this, again, is... the economist, Dr. Biman Prasad, leader of the National Library, he said if you look at the economy today, it's only being driven by tourism, which is under strain, and government spending through borrowing.
See, another level of intellectual dishonesty. If you look at the private sector investment, it's been one of the highest as a percent of our GDP. Get the statistics from the RBF, it's all available. Private sector growth has also increased significantly in Fiji. Yes, there's been government spending, but the government spending has been in the right places. It's been for infrastructure growth. And we need that. I mean, is he going to say we should not have infrastructure growth? Government should not be connecting people to road, water, electricity. Every single day, somebody in Fiji is getting connected to electricity. The moment you connect them to electricity, what are you doing? You're driving the economic potential. You're driving the high level of growth of income generation for them. A guy who catches fish, got no electricity, he can't store his fish. The moment you connect him to electricity, you connect her to electricity, they're able to store their fish, get a higher price.
So you're setting the foundation for
what I'm
economic
saying
growth.
is that it's got a multiplier effect. So many of the things that we are doing has got a multiplier effect. The policies we put in place are consistent in policies. We're setting a good foundation in respect of also stability and security. All of that actually attracts investment. So it's a holistic approach. You can't say, because we did one thing here.
Right.
Even with the tourism sector, I mean, I understand some of them have criticized it. We should have 1 million visitors. What would you rather have? Would you rather have 800,000 visitors spending $5,000 or $6,000 per head, as an example, per head, or on say 1 week, or you want to have 1 million people spending $1,000. You got to look at the yields. That's very important, because if you have higher yields, it puts also less pressure on your public infrastructure. By getting higher yields, you're actually getting more income growth and more income actually from tourism.
So
you need to look at
so
quality.
A range of things, not just tourism and government
you
spending.
need to look at quality of spending.
All right. Let's go to the minimum wage, because it's been quite debated. And now some of the industries are stepping in to state about the $5 minimum wage. That basically, you've stated extensively that it's not feasible. They've stated they can get it done. They are pushing for this so people can have a minimum wage. They're saying so that people can have a life that so people can live above the poverty line. Above the poverty line, and that wage is $5 an hour. So the question I'd like to frame, so what, regardless what the price is, I mean, 5, 10 and things, what needs to be done or be put in place before we can increase the minimum wage? How do you intend to see wages increase?
Stanley, again, we've made our policy in this quite clear, as announced in the budget. You see, one thing don't forget, please. When you talk about minimum wage, a lot of people forget this. When you talk about minimum wage, it's national minimum wage, it talks about unskilled work. People who are in already different other sectors of employment, their minimum wage is a lot higher. Some people are getting minimum wage of $5 an hour, $5.50 an hour, $4.30 an hour, $6 an hour. Some people minimum wage are a lot higher too. So there are different categories. This minimum wage debate or argument is about unskilled people. Now, what we are saying is that we need to have a continuous review of it. Benny Marama is the first leader, prime minister, who had the guts to introduce national minimum wage, set at $2 an hour in 2014. Then we reviewed it, went up to $2.32. Then we reviewed it at $2.68. As announced in the last budget, we will review it. But also let's review all the other categories of employment. You see, people are only focused on the unskilled people. We want also the waiter and waitresses and boiler maker, forklift driver, everybody else, truck driver, to have their salaries reviewed too. But we need to do it in a consolidated manner, in a sensible manner that will not lead to job losses.
Right.
That will be sustainable.
So you've been talking to these industries?
We've made general policy announcements. We stated this in the budget. We've been continuously yelling from the treetops about this. We will at one stage in Fiji get $5 minimum wage an hour. Of course we will. But let's do it in a manner that won't be economically detrimental. If tomorrow...
So you're saying it can be done, just not now?
What we are saying, it needs to be progressively done. It needs to be studied well. These people have gone and said, we'll give you $5 an hour. Yeah. When you and other people, journalists, have put him on the spot, he said, oh, we'll do a package. And, for example, cane cutters won't be allowed $5 an hour. They cut by the ton. By the ton. What nonsense. Okay. So the guy who comes, the laborer that the cane farmer hires to weed the grass, what, he's going to get $5 an hour? He's going to pay him by the cubic meter of grass he's going to pull out. You see, this policy is very shallow. They have done this again to try, it sounds very sweet. So somebody's getting $2.68 an hour, $3, hey, I'll get $5 an hour. It sounds very sweet. It's economically not viable. What we are saying, and Fiji First government under our Prime Minister has taken a very responsible manner in saying, we need to review it. Let's not only review that, review other people's salary. We need to do a 1 or 18-month period or so. Get the right people in. Look at also social wages. What they don't tell you, they don't talk about social wages.
So basically, if
social wages need to be factored in to your cost of living. Now, the reason why people ask for wage increment is because they say, okay, because of cost of living factors, right? But there are many things now that people no longer pay for. that we actually give by way of social wages if you earn below a particular income level.
So it'll be something you're working towards, and that will be part of your plan.
We already have a policy on it.
Policy on it, right?
We already have a policy on it.
Let me come to retirement wage because of the time constraints. On the 55 years old, do you have or have you assessed the impact of that policy and whether it has had a positive or negative effect?
When the policy decision was made, actually, it was to do with the fact that today we have, as we highlighted to you, 50% of the population is below the age of 27, right?
Right.
Now, that retirement age of 55 is only applicable for civil servants. Private sector, it's up to them, whichever company you work for, and various other organizations. For civil service, we've done that because we believe the young people of Fiji also need to be given an opportunity. And they need to come into the system too. A lot of them bring new ideas, not to say that people who've been in the system don't have new ideas. But these people have had a good run within the civil service. And you see, if you look at, let me tell you, the retirement age used to be 60 until Rambo carried out the 87 coup. He reduced it to 55. It carried on at 55 right up till Grassi came in. He then put it up to 60. Now, many say Rambuka did it because he wanted to get rid of people from the system, and ethnic reasons, whatever it was. Grassi, they said he put it up because he wanted to keep some people who were his supporters so he could keep them in. We've done it because we want to get more young people into the system. And the assessment has been done. The statistics tell you
what is the assessment?
70% of the population is below the age of 40, 50% of the population is below the age of 27. So we need to give these young people an opportunity to come with
Why
the
I
system.
ask that? Because there are people saying, look, you're losing a lot of very highly skilled, very experienced people from the civil service when you take it 55 and replacing them with much younger people who may not be as experienced and
you see, not all the civil servants retired, all the civil servants, like we don't have 10,000 civil servants retiring today or this year at one time. You know, there's drips and drabs of it. Obviously, people still stay within the system. There's some civil servants who have actually gone and set up their own companies. They do consultancy. That's not to say that they won't get employed. We have actually a volunteer system. We're sending a lot of civil servants offshore too. So, you see, their appeal is to these people who are about to retire. Yeah. Again, it's a vote bank issue. We are thinking long term. Because we are thinking about the young people. You see, it's a contradiction in policy as far as we are concerned.
Yeah.
What they're saying, oh, the youth will look after you, but then they don't want to make new employment opportunities.
Well, what they're saying is we'll find jobs for the youth, but we'll keep people, because what they're saying is the 55-year-olds today, they're not on their own. They're fathers, mothers, grandfathers, grandmothers that look after families and sometimes are the sole breadwinners. So that's why I asked about the assessment.
There are a lot of young people who are sole breadwinners too. There are also a lot of young people who are fathers and mothers. So, I can argue to say they're the same thing. But the reality is that maybe they're not grandparents. Hopefully they're not a grandparent at the age of 27. But the fact of the matter is that these people also need to be given opportunities. And the fact of the matter is that people know beforehand that they'll be retiring 55. This policy was implemented in 2008.
Sure.
So anybody in 2008, anybody who was in 2008, or at the age of 40 or whatever it was, they knew they would retire at the age of 55.
All right. So, is there any condition under which you would look to review the policy?
No, we already have a policy. This is what they again don't talk about. Sorry, it's very hot. So I have to wipe my face. If there is a particular skill set that is lacking. So, for example, you have a doctor. We don't have enough doctors. You have certain nursing categories. You have certain engineers, even marine scientists, foresters, that we don't have enough qualified people. They can be re-engaged. It's not like everybody goes home.
Okay.
If they have a particular skill set, of course, we want succession planning. For generally, we give them an engagement of another 1 year. Some people have been engaged for longer than that because there's nobody else to actually do the job who has that level of qualification. So that provision is there also. But of course, we don't want a secretary, for example, where there's a lot of secretaries, a lot of young people coming through, or maybe other professions that are coming through. We don't want to continue to have them because we want these young people to come into the system too.
The opportunities are provided. Yeah. You're watching Simpson at 8. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Simpson at 8. Now, on the tertiary education loan scheme, we're seeing a number of different formulas and options coming out of for the political parties for people to consider. Yours, of course, is the current one. NFP and SODELPA for, let's weigh them and consider them. For SODELPA, they will pay off all the current student debts, and the expenditure will be a new item in the new budget year. For NFP, they're proposing a special category for poor and low-income families. According to them, the current system is very unfair to students who come from low-income families, because if you have if a student who has 290 marks and then he comes from a poor family, if he takes that loan, it adds up to the piling debt on that. And they're saying that that's a better policy to have, or to improve on the tertiary education loan scheme. How do you see these proposals from the two opposing political parties?
Let me tell you what we have. Obviously, we started the scholarships. We removed ethnic demarcations on scholarships. We gave scholarships on merit. And our scholarships are actually more skewed towards science-based subjects, because that's an area we have a shortage of.
That's the toppers, right?
The toppers, yeah, the scholarship. Now that's gone up to 970 positions in the toppers, 950, 970 positions. And then, of course, we have the TELS, Tertiary Education Loan Scheme, which we also introduced. Now, the Tertiary Education Loan Scheme are for those people who don't get toppers, but they get a place in university and they want to go to university. Now, we have, of course, seen a huge level of people now attending university as a result of TELS being offered to them. There are many students previously whose parents could not afford to send them to university, let alone send them to high school. Many people dropped out because they didn't have free education, could not pay the fees. So we've seen a huge exponential growth of people in universities. Now, when if I, for example, am TELS, I not only get paid my university fees, but if my family earns now less than $50,000, I also get a living allowance if I want it. They get up to about $7,000 a year.
That's all covered under the loan.
That's all covered under the loan. Now, then when I finish studies, once I get a job, then I start doing the repayment. And the repayment is 20% maximum, 20% of my gross salary a year. So basically, if I'm earning $30,000 a year, I will pay $6,000 a year. Now, I can spread that over a period of time. It can be 10, 15 years, whatever the case may be. What we have done is that we have now introduced what we call the accelerated repayment program. Now, as announced in the budget. So if I pay 50% of my debt in the first 3 to 6 years, the other 50% of the debt is written off. If I pay 75% of my debt in the next time frame, then 25% is written off. If I pay 90%, the next 10% is written off. So we provided actually an opportunity for people to have the debts written off quicker if they do the repayments. Now, one thing, as I mentioned early on, Stanley, is that we have 27% of the population who are below the age of, 50% of the population below the age of 27. That means we have a young population. When you have a young population, what do? They produce more babies, because younger population produces more children. So that means we're getting a lot more younger people coming through. So you need to have sustainability in these policies. Some have come along and said, I think you mentioned SODELPA said they'll wipe off all the debts.
Yeah.
What about the new coming students? Will they all get free university? Can the government afford it? The government cannot afford it because they'll have to pinch money from elsewhere, or they may have to raise taxes. Similarly, NFP, I understand, I haven't seen exactly, but I've heard snippets of it, that the first year they'll make free. The second and third year you have to pay. They've said that people, for example, who get more than 250 marks, this is the latest one, because they're changing it all the time. The latest one is that if you get more than 250 marks, then you'll actually get this first year free. What about the student who gets 230 or 240, but still gets a place university? What will happen to them? So you see, there's a lot of anomalies there. What we are implementing is that if you look at all our policies, it's done on a sustainable basis, because we calculate and we say, hang on, there's a lot of young people coming through the system now. We need to actually look after them too. And what is really interesting also, Stanley, is this whole education debate has essentially just centered around university students. You know why? Because university students vote.
Right.
They don't talk about primary and secondary, which we have been talking about, but now, because we've been saying it for the past 1 week, they probably come up with a policy in respect of that.
So you are going to make adjustments. I've just let it go because I wanted people to hear that from you, because in the end, people are going to have to look at all these options and decide for themselves.
Absolutely, and they need to decide that not just because someone's saying something sweet, they need to get sustainability of
something that works for the future.
Yeah.
Now, Auditor General's report. The status of the Auditor General's report, because when the 2016 report came out, there was a bit of confusion. It was said that there was mistakes. The Auditor General's office did not follow correct procedures, and he came out and had to apologize for mistakes that he had made. It made some people wonder: is the Auditor General independent?
Well, he independently made that statement. I mean, this is the issue. Just because somebody who is an independent organization has made a correction does not make them not independent.
So, so you had nothing to do. I mean, the government. I mean, just to clear the air from
Yes.
people, you had nothing to do in telling that Auditor General, hey, go and fix that.
No, the Auditor General, obviously the Permanent Secretary also issued a statement, you may recall. The Permanent Secretary also pointed out to the Auditor General, Permanent Secretary for Economy. Now, she is ultimately responsible for this. She pointed out all these mistakes. Now, as you know, the Auditor General that we've got now was the new Auditor General. There was an Auditor General that was there prior to him. So he obviously was not necessarily responsible for what transpired prior to that. And he's obviously picked up a number of mistakes. And he's made the statement independently.
Right.
You know, in the same way, for example, a magistrate court gives a ruling and then you appeal it. I mean, they have an appeal process. If the High Court says the magistrate is wrong, does that mean that the magistrate is not independent? Of course he's
So the
independent.
process now is, because before the Auditor General released a report, the media would cover it. The process now is it goes to the Public Accounts Committee?
No.
The Standing Committee, sorry?
The same process is there.
Yeah.
The Auditor General's report gets tabled in Parliament. The moment something is tabled in Parliament, it becomes a public document.
Right.
So the media still picks up on it. The media goes to all the Public Accounts Committee meetings.
Because I was interested in what he said when that happened. He said that the mistakes came out because of the archaic audit practices within the Office of the Auditor General. He also said that he intended to review the capacity and capability of the staff of the Auditor General. He said this in September 2017, after the Fiji First government has been in power for about 3 years. And when you came in 2014, you had promised that the Auditor General's office would be strengthened, it would have teeth, people would be taken into account. People were actually looking forward to that, to see a very transparent and accountable government. So how is it that in September 2015, he's still saying that they're using archaic audited practices?
I said, I think you're putting it out of context. What I had said, the Auditor General's office needs to be given the right tools. It needs to be given the right
No, this is what he said.
the right level of resources. Hear me out. Right level of resources. You're tying it back to us. Right level of resources. What we said that previously in the Public Accounts Committee meetings, I can go back to the SBT days and the Garasi SDL days. There are many observations were actually made by the Public Accounts Committee where there are a lot of untoward behavior. It came out in the report after the Public Accounts Committee, dealt with the Auditor General's report, but no steps were ever taken. There are many senior civil servants, for example, in the period between 2007 and 2006, one of the persons was a deputy permanent secretary in fisheries. Actually went, and now he's working for one of the political parties, actually when they had this scheme about, developing your fish ponds, the first lot of money that went to his own farm to develop fish ponds. That was identified in the Auditor General, identified in the Public Accounts Committee, report was tabled in Parliament. Was any action taken against this person? None. So we said in that context that any untoward behavior by any of the civil servants, anybody that's doing any mismanagement of funds, etc., they need to be taken to task.
Yeah,
they
so
need to be followed through.
Are there any examples from when your government was in power?
About what?
About people who have misused funds that's been taken to task.
There have been, FICAC is charging people all the time.
So FICAC is handling that.
FICAC charges people all the time.
Through the Auditor General's
in respect of the Auditor General's report and the Public Accounts Committee, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is that you have actually people being constantly monitored in respect of the financial mismanagement of their respective ministries.
All right. Just quickly on Itoke issues, just about because there's so many issues with the Itoke land and stuff, but we see from SODELPA and the forums that you talk about on Facebook, concerns being raised about what they see as the erosion of Itoke norms and the things they hold dear. The Great Council of Chiefs, the common name that Fijians used to refer to indigenous Fijians, they're saying now everyone's using it. Whether it's unrelated or not, they're pointing to armed soldiers going to the installation of the Vunivalu and stopping it in Bau. Even just recently, they point to the traditional ceremony to welcome the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, saying the confederacies and the paramount titles associated with them were not acknowledged. What being said, that's being pushed is that the Fiji First is watering down and weakening the traditions, cultures, and institutions of the Itoke. What is your response to those that are promoting this view?
Again, they're very desperate, like some of the NFP supporters, bringing in religion and ethnicity into it. Look, I mean, I was at the ceremony at the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Wonderful ceremony. The people of Nakelo performed the Meke dance. We had the people of Vunda performing the Vengaravi. All of these things are being done. We have different provinces now participating in all these international forums that we have international guests. The Prime Minister is Minister responsible for Itauke affairs, brings in all these different people who are traditionally on the margins, now actually bringing them into the mainstream. We have, translated the climate change documents in the Itauke language. Wasavaka Viti, or conversational Itauke, is now being taught in schools so everybody can understand that. The complete ownership of land, 91% of all the land in Fiji is now Itauke land, independence about 81-83%. There's a constitutional provision that says that no Itauke land can be actually permanently alienated as it happened under the 1997 Constitution, under the 1990 Constitution. So these are all the provisions that are being put in place. These people are talking about the wilting down of or erosion of Itauke culture. They don't know what they're talking about. Every day, every single day, people are able to converse in their language, people have access to the land, they have security of the land. What other form of wilting down of culture is there? There is a constitutional provision, Section 26, that it says that if you are discriminated against, we did not have this before, in respect of your culture, then you actually, there's a legal provision for you to take cause of action.
Right.
There's in the preamble of the Constitution recognizes a unique cultural practice.
So in essence, they are free to practice their culture. It's well protected under the Constitution, so they shouldn't be worried about it.
The reality is that, you see, this has become a mantra of people like Niko Nomaikula, Moses Tabu, all of them. They keep on harping about it. There's absolutely no evidence. The only thing they refer to is GCC. But the reality is that every single Itauke person in Fiji is able to practice their faith, to practice their culture, their customs, their traditions.
Right. Final question, going to the Fiji First chances, you're confident you'll win back the power and keep the momentum going for the country?
We believe that the Fijian voters will realize, and those who have not will ultimately realize in the next couple of weeks, that Fiji First is the only way forward. The reality is that we have a strong leadership, we provide stability, we provide consistency in policies. We have carried on a particular momentum, very basic things like, this, Stanley. In 2007, not many people had mobile phones. Unit cost of a mobile phone was 99 cents a unit. Today it's about 23, 24 cents a unit. All of these things have happened from an economic, social, political perspective. That we should continue with. It's a good system. Let's work with it. This is a government that will provide you that momentum. And let's build upon the economic foundations, because all the other so-called problems that we had in the past regarding land and all that, ownership and all that, has been resolved in the Constitution. Let's focus on the real ball game. And the real ball game is economic empowerment, about development. This is the only party that's got a sound policy regarding it, sound policies regarding that. Let's focus on that. We are not irresponsible by others, like others.
Keep the ball rolling. The real ball game will be happening over the next 3 weeks, November 14th. Fiji First General Secretary Aiyaz Sayed-Khaiyum, thank you for joining me on the show.
Naka.
That was Simpson at 8 for the evening. We hope you enjoyed the show and will join us again next week. Don't go away. Nimulot and Nasaratumbo is coming up straight after this on My TV with Tali Mangi Mangi. Good night.